Hey there, it's me, Ray. Don't mind me, just playing some Banjo-Kazooie. Man, what an amazing game. Both it and its sequel, Banjo-Tooie, are such icons within the early days of 3D platformers. Oh, and his appearance in Smash Bros, who could have predicted that would ever happen? Not me, that's for sure. Although, it's a shame. We haven't had an entry in the series since Banjo-Tooie, especially with that line about a third game.
Good morning, my name's Chris Justin with the news. This just in.
How much YouTube mate Tate did not know about the game. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. How he did not know about this, I have no idea, and he should be ashamed. Hey Ray, take this.
Nuts and Bolts, huh? I don't recall ever hearing about this game. But it's a Banjo-Kazooie game, why isn't it up there with the other two? And this is on Xbox 360, an iconic console with so many awesome games. It was even developed by Rare, the company who made the original, so surely it can't be that bad, right? I suppose there's only really one way to find out. Alright, let's do this. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is the third and so far final game in the Banjo-Kazooie series. Released on the 11th of November 2008 on the Xbox 360 and re-released on the 4th of August 2015 via Rare Replay on the Xbox One, this game was very highly anticipated by fans. You see, at the end of the second game, Gruntilda says, "Just you wait till Banjo 3E," implying that Rare had plans all the way back in 2000 for a third game, presumably on the GameCube, as Rare was still a third-party developer for Nintendo at the time. However, in 2002, Rare was completely bought out by Microsoft. We then got games like Viva Pinata, Grabbed by the Ghoulies, a bunch of Kinect titles, and way later down the line, Sea of Thieves. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. At E3 in 2006, we finally got a trailer for that long-awaited third game, and it looked awesome! Spiral Mountain, notes, jiggies, and all that music, it was all looking so hopeful. We were going to get a brand new 3D platforming game, and a Banjo-Kazooie one at that! Ah, what an amazing time to be alive. Little did we know this game was going to go in a very different direction. We open the game and find out that Banjo and Kazooie have got quite the collection of stuff. Looks like Banjo isn't a fan of Nintendo anymore. Look at all those Xboxes stacked up. Wowie zowie, one for every single one of his friends. Except for Bottles, he's dead. We then get a recap of the last two games' events, explaining how Gruntilda was defeated and buried under a boulder. Then, we catch up to our heroes now. They look a little different. Must just be the 360's graphics or something. This then begins the very slow and very long walk over to Gruntilda. The reason it's so long isn't just because Banjo walks slow, but because both he and Kazooie decide to interrupt you every 5 seconds. We then find Gruntilda as just her head, and both her and Banjo look like they're ready to throw down when suddenly... Huh? I didn't pause. Did some ghost come in and press the pause button or something?
Don't look at me. I didn't do anything.
Spooky ghost! It turns out that it was this bloke called the Lord of Games, or just Log, and he's made every game ever. Every game ever, huh? You sure that's something you want to be proud of? Log then turns Banjo into a frog from Viva Pinata. Huh. Cute. We then have this joke about getting a load of collectibles. I get the message they're trying to convey, but Jesus Christ. After that, we are then transported to Showdown Town and given a wrench that can pick up stuff. Why would we need that? Car parts? What is any of this stuff? What's going on? No. Oh, surely they didn't. No. Surely they didn't change their 3D platforming mascot into a totally different genre and completely disrespect their past work. Why? For what reason have you done this? Please tell me. I'm genuinely curious. Mumbo then gives us the rundown on how to build a car. Thank God this is skippable. After either following Mumbo's tutorial or just skipping it, you now have a car and can finally get started on the game. We then get to the first world of the game, Nutty Acres. Oh hey, check it out, it's Klongo. Klongo then tasks you with talking to Mumbo, and after getting a Jiggy and putting it in the Jiggy tank, you were then just kind of left to figure out what to do and where to go. This is where I start to get lost, not in a literal sense, but in terms of gameplay. I just don't understand what exactly it is I'm supposed to be doing. There's all these NPCs around that you just kinda talk to, do a task, get a Jiggy, and every few Jiggies you unlock a new level. I'm convinced you genuinely spend more time talking to NPCs in this game than actually driving any vehicles. Even the first quote-unquote boss battle of this game is structured as if it was a side quest. It's bizarre, I don't understand why they did this. In the first two games, collecting Jiggies was fun and felt like a genuine reward for your hard work. In Nuts and Bolts, I feel like I'm doing Zelda side quests but with vehicles. Zelda with vehicles. Like that never worked. This game just feels so empty and almost like a demo of something unfinished. There's no sense of exploration. The level design is just empty nothingness. And it's genuinely really frustrating because what I see here is the assets and potential for a pretty good third game in the series. I don't think it would have lived up to the first two games, but I think it would have been decent enough to be up there as a 3D platformer. I completely understand and respect wanting to change up gameplay mechanics and try new things. That isn't the issue, because if you don't change things, they get stale. Games like Fallout changed from 2D isometric games to 3D first/third person games. GTA went from top-down games to big asses on cars. The issue is, however, doing that while trying to also give fans of the old games what they want. The end result is just a game that feels messy and disconnected. I know I joked about it, but I think the key difference between this game's vehicles and Tears of the Kingdom's is the fact that with Tears of the Kingdom's vehicle building, the game is designed around it, and it all feels very naturally implemented. In Nuts and Bolts, however, the game feels like it was going to be a 3D platformer, potentially even Banjo 3, but they changed it at last minute and added vehicles. Tears of the Kingdom worked because of how open and free the game was. If they had added these mechanics to a game like Wind Waker or Skyward Sword, it would be equally as confusing and as messy as Nuts and Bolts. I don't want to sit here and cry, how could they do this to Banjo? Because I genuinely believe that this game could have been really good if the level design was tweaked ever so slightly to match the new gameplay style. It genuinely could have worked. However, I don't think anyone anywhere can explain what led to this decision being taken with the franchise in the first place. It's baffling. Another thing that hurts this game is its writing. I still think there's some decent jokes in this, however other jokes just don't land at all. And while the original games broke the fourth wall, this game does it so often. If the fact that you bought the game and are holding a controller that's connected to your console somehow didn't remind you that you were playing a game, the writing in Nuts and Bolts will definitely remind you. Man, all this negativity is just making me sad. So let's talk about the positives. I can't place my finger on exactly why, but my god, this game's art style is so cute. I love the almost handmade teddy bear look that the game and levels have. At times, it's a little inconsistent, but all round, I love the designs for Banjo, Kazooie, Mumbo, and all the other returning characters in this game. Another thing that's really good in this game is the controls. Banjo, both on foot and in a vehicle, feels really good to control when you're not, you know. And his movement feels like the logical progression from the N64 era. Banjo, on foot, does move a little bit slowly, however, considering the focus of this game is on the vehicles, I can't really complain about that. On the subject of vehicles, I actually love the customization for the vehicles in this game. If you're tired of driving around in an old crappy shopping trolley, you can instead build a boat or a plane. I do think that the tutorial for car building is way too long, and it does overcomplicate things a little bit, but man, I'm not afraid to say it, building cars in this game is just straight up fun. One thing I think the Banjo-Kazooie series is well known for is its music, and my god, I love the soundtrack to this game. I think hearing the returning motifs from the past games is really good to hear, as I don't think that the soundtrack is just constantly the old stuff redone. The new stuff that the soundtrack does is actually really nice and equally as catchy as the N64 era. Speaking of the N64 era, Nuts and Bolts soundtrack was done by Grant Kirkhope, the composer of the original 2 games, which is really cool. However, unfortunately, this was his last work with Rare. It's definitely a beautiful soundtrack to go out with. Thankfully, since leaving Rare, Grant didn't stop video game composing and has continued to make some absolutely incredible soundtracks. Thankfully, Nuts and Bolts wasn't the end of Banjo-Kazooie as a whole. A load of the old Rare team got the band back together and created a new development company called Playtonic, and released a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie in 2017 called Yooka-Laylee, a game I'll eventually talk about, I'm sure. Banjo also appeared as a playable character in the Xbox 360 version of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Banjo and Kazooie eventually returned back home to Nintendo, as the first Banjo game is now playable with the Switch Online servers. And as mentioned at the start of this video, Banjo was added as a DLC fighter in Smash Bros Ultimate, which was something people wanted for years. They even ended up getting an amiibo figure, which I swear I'll buy one day. There's occasional rumours and rumblings of a remake or a third game every few years, but they never amount to anything. Maybe one day we'll see a real Banjo 3, but with the original development team having left years ago now, I don't think that's likely to happen. And it really is a shame. With games like Yooka-Laylee, Crash 4, Mario Odyssey selling really well, I think a 3D platforming Banjo right now would be awesome. But no matter where Rare decides to take the series, I will always support it.
Breaking news, a new Banjo-Kazooie game has just been announced. That's right, folks, Banjo Theft Auto 3 is going to be releasing late 2027, and from what I'm hearing, it's going to be a complete departure from the 3D platformer we once knew and loved. I've been Chris Justin, and this is the news.
Ha ha ha!